this is my ETP 402 review of past learning. To start off, I'd like to talk to you about my teaching philosophy. My teaching philosophy is something that has always been a hard thing for me to express and define, as I believe that it is continually evolving as I gather more information and more experience. However, if I was to illustrate it, it would be done through this Venn diagram. The Venn diagram has three key areas I have chosen that significantly contribute to my teaching philosophy. The first being relationships, second engagement, and third creativity. When working together, all three areas can produce effective teaching and learning. Looking at relationships, it's such an important part of my teaching philosophy. When teachers form positive bonds with students, classrooms become supportive spaces in which students can engage in academically and socially productive ways. It creates a positive impact on my students. When you have this relationship, it also creates meaningful learning experiences. It allows teachers to create an environment where students feel safe and able to freely express themselves. I believe by building these relationships, we can also form an understanding of our students, that each student is individual in their own needs, in their own interests, their backgrounds, and their learning abilities. So getting to know them is a way for us to also cater to these needs, to celebrate and incorporate these differences, to ensure that all of our students are able to participate, first of all, and reach their potential. Pat Thompson's virtual school bag theory talks about how students come to school with a vast range of cultural and linguistic resources. By integrating these things into our classroom, we create a sense of belonging and engagement. We also connect them to the broader community and real-life experiences, which can better their learning experiences. Catering to these needs of my students allows me to reflect upon the ATL Standard 1.5, which is differentiating teaching to meet specific learning needs of my students and across the full range of abilities of my class. Therefore, I have created a maths unit on problem pictures where students are able to reflect upon open-ended questions and formulate answers that are the alternative range of answers for these problem pictures. Problem pictures could be a playground where you ask an open-ended question for students to answer on shapes. What are the shapes that they see on that? 3 pictures have been taken for the students where they are able to reflect upon either numbers and algebra, geometry, and statistics and probability. All 3 pictures pose different open-ended questions where students can therefore go and answer. And it also has an enabling prompt and an extended prompt. The enabling prompt and extended prompt is specialized for students that either do have trouble with their learning or that they do excel in their learning. Therefore, it creates an activity where students of all abilities are able to participate in the one thing, rather than giving individual activities to students that do either excel in their learning or do have trouble with their learning. It not also creates this participation amongst students, but they all feel like they are engaged because it meets their needs, it meets their interests, and it's all done as a community, as a class, where they don't feel like they are singled out or that they don't belong because they are doing something different to their peers. Therefore, going back to my pedagogy, my philosophy, it allows them to feel that sense of community, to feel that sense of belonging, to be engaged in the lesson, and to participate as well. Therefore, knowing our students and creating this relationship, we can identify what works best for our students and how best we can deliver in an effective way for them to learn. Tamara Bibi talks about how the emotional aspect of a student-teacher relationship contributes to the mental growth of our students, and when this isn't present, it can create a block instead. This block is not only between our students, but between them and their learning, because they don't find that need to learn and that connection, that interest, so they do disengage from the classroom. Moving on to the second element of my Venn diagram being creativity, a quote that clearly illustrates this is by Albert Einstein. It is the supreme art of a teacher to awaken the joy in creative expression and knowledge. I believe this perfectly paints my pedagogy in a few lines, as there is so much more to teaching than delivering knowledge to our students. In order to address curriculum standards such as the Victorian standards, to or the outcomes that we expect of these students. The true purpose of a teacher, I believe, is to instill a love for learning within our students, instill a love of lifelong learning in our students, so that they are able to inspire, they are able to be inspired to delve further and to explore further in creating more meaning and forming that interest in what they are learning through hands-on creative tasks. This construction of knowledge is closely aligned to Jean Piaget's and John Dewey's constructivist approach to learning, where students build their own knowledge and form meaning through educational experiences. By planning for and delivering hands-on learning tasks, I like to move away from the traditional use of worksheets. Therefore, instead of having students passively respond to answers, they're able to participate in their own construction of knowledge and explore alternative ways that connect to their interests and onto their prior knowledge. And this then in turn enriches their learning experience while engaging them. Roy Killen mentions that students need to be able to see the things that they are learning, to see that they are relevant to them and significant to their understanding of the world. Having students using manipulatives to problem solve, having activities where they're able to use informal materials to measure things, or using pipe cleaners and Fruit Loops to explore the aspect of patterns, allows for them to have these hands-on experiences in my classroom. It also allows for them to use ICT as a creative tool. So using ICT in my classroom is also a very big creative tool that I like to use, where students are able to use iPads, the interactive TV, computers to create stories, to publish them to blogs, to explore information on websites and question these, and using various apps on their iPad, they're able to do so as well. Using ICT closely ties into the standard, the ATEL standard 2.6 of information and communication technology, where I've used Storybird, the app, to have students in grade 5 and 6 composite class to create a story where they are able to draft it, to then write it up, and also use illustrations to bring it to life. Once they have finished, they were able to share it with their class on their class blog, as well as their parents and the greater school community. This was a really engaging task for them because they were able to, instead of doing it in their workbooks, they were able to use this app to see it come to life with the illustrations and read each other's and gain more information from each other and on the process of creating stories. When I think about how relationships and engagement and creativity work together to promote better learning and better teaching for myself, and how I can reflect upon all these elements, it makes me think of 5.1 for the ATEL standard, which is assessing student learning, and how I have demonstrated this understanding of assessment strategies in my own teaching. In a maths lesson, in a maths unit that I have created for a foundation class on patterns, I was able to develop an assessment rubric that clearly outlined where I would like my students to, what goals I would like my students to reach by the end of that topic. I used things such as informal and formal assessment and diagnostic assessment at the start to clearly identify what are the prior knowledge of my students, and throughout formative assessments on using Dylan Williams' popsicle sticks to generate not only engagement of random questions and probing, but also to understand their knowledge and to then place them against this rubric where I can identify, are they progressing in this topic? Then focusing on putting them towards interpreting this data and creating a spreadsheet where I can clearly identify where my weaknesses are in the class, who my weaknesses are in the classes, and who's excelling, and what needs to be done, and what I can do to better get these students to reach their goals. Therefore, I was able to see how each of these three elements, when working together and interlocked with each other, work towards creating a better learning experience for my students, and to better my own teaching to delivering lessons for them. And it showed how reflection and being a reflective teacher allowed me to create these experiences for my students, to ensure that I am creating meaningful relationships and positive relationships in my classroom, that I am using creative ways to engage my students, to highlight their interests, to formulate that understanding, and by hands-on activities where they can go and explore and construct their own knowledge. So this concludes my teaching philosophy and different ways that I have been able to address certain ATEL standards. Thank you for listening.